Well, hello everybody. We are live on the air, and it is a great day here in Minnesota. But we have people from all over the country, and I'm going to do a quick introduction. We'll start with Linda Samuels. Say hi, Linda.
Hey, everybody. Great
awesome.
To be here.
I cut you off already. You know, these cameras switch back and forth. And Leslie Josell, where are you at today?
I'm right above New York City, half hour out. It's a gorgeous day. Nice to see everybody.
Awesome. And then somewhere down from the south, our Southern Belle. Geraldine, are you there?
Hey, y'all. I'm here in beautiful metropolis of Cary, North Carolina.
All right. Well, are you guys ready to go on this? Because I'm really excited about this. This is a test now. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand that this is the live internet, and you never know what's going to happen. We may just cut off, but if we do that, we'll jump back on as quickly as we can. We never know what's going to happen, so technology, we want it to be our friend today, but we are here. This is a live Q&A. We are going to answer your organizing questions. Now, whether it's home organizing or organizing for the office, we have 3 of the top professional organizers, and so we're going to get right into it right away. We don't want to waste any time because we don't have a lot of time for all the questions that we have. In fact, if you have a question live here, just go ahead and put it in the chat box and submit that, and we will get to it, as many of those as we can as possible. And again, I'm going to apologize up front. I know already we're not going to have the time to do all the questions that we have because we had tons submitted in advance, and then of course the ones we get live today. But Linda, let's start out with you. Let's start out with the concept of overwhelm. The question that we have is from someone who asked about, well, you know, they're just, you know, they're trying to get going. They're trying to, you know, make it happen. They can't seem to get started because they're just overwhelmed about everything. What kind of advice do you have for them?
Well, first of all, I would say that's probably the #1 thing that I hear when people call me up, that idea of overwhelm. And I think the first step is one that you've done already, which is admitting that you're overwhelmed, because once you've identified an issue, then you have a chance to start working on it. So you're overwhelmed. It could be you're overwhelmed with everything or something specific. But the clearer you get about what that overwhelm is about, the better off you are at moving forward. So identify what it is that's the issue, and then start to think about all the different aspects of what that is. Get it out of your head, because again, sometimes that overwhelm happens internally, and just being able to talk it out, write it out, record it, however you want to get it out of the brain, that starts to help with alleviating some of that stress. And then,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I can keep going, John, but I can.
We only have 1 hour here today, but I think Leslie might have a little follow-up on that as well.
I think Linda's point is fantastic, because you really need to understand, Linda, like what it is that's happening. But to take it a step further and to give something, an actual tangible tip, what I always like to tell clients is sometimes working time over task sometimes helps them to get their arms wrapped around what they're working on. So again, it doesn't work for everyone, but sometimes looking at a room that is so overwhelming and they don't know where to start because they don't know how long it might take them, if they, let's say, set a timer and come up with a very specific amount of time, sometimes saying I'm only going to work for 20 minutes is a really nice way to get started. I call it making that barrier to entry as easy as possible. So chunking it down, saying 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get started. What I find happens with my clients is once they get started, it's that almost that initial start that's hard, and once they're in it, they're in it.
All right, Geraldine, we're going to move to you right now, and Barbara's got a question on live about home organizing. She goes, I'm drowning in paper, tax records, bank statements, credit card statements. How long should I retain these kinds of documents? You know, I'd like to be able to only have to keep those that I need. So do you have any recommendations on, you know, tax documents and papers like that?
Yeah, and I'm probably going to go against a lot of the popular thing right now. Everybody wants to scan and get rid of paper, but based on things that I've had happen with my own clients, I'm going to tell her to, if you have access to something archival where you can put it away in a deep closet or way up high in your, third floor, your basement, your attic, something where it's not going to be, eaten by bugs or whatever. I'm going to tell you to keep it about 7 years. That's pretty conservative. And I would visit the IRS.gov because technically organizers don't want to be responsible for anything that we're going to tell you to let go of. In the event that it does turn up later, you needed to hang on to that. So the IRS.gov website has very good guidelines on what to keep and what to let go of.
Well, now, we have a lot of different kinds of people watching today. We've got business people that are working in offices. We have home people that work at home trying to organize families. But we also have a lot of our friends of SMED, of course, are the professional organizers. And I've gotten a couple questions here about running an organizing business. And I want each of you to answer this one. We'll start out with Linda first on this. How do you get more clients for an organizing business? This is a professional organizer watching and wants to know, how do you get more clients?
Wow. Well, that's a great question. There's lots of ways to do it. You can advertise, you can network, you can attend professional conferences and meetings of other organizers. Networking with organizers is perhaps one of the best ways of getting clients because you get to know each other and you can refer back and forth. Oh my goodness, you can do public speaking, you can do blogging, there's a wealth of ways to get clients. But probably even before thinking about the how, make sure you know what is your ideal client. And then you want to wrap all your marketing around that.
All right, we'll go over to Leslie. Do you have any advice for organizers looking for some clients?
Sure. I thought Linda gave an amazing amount of different avenues to go on. A few that I would add was, and it's going to sound really simple and maybe a little pedestrian, but tell everyone. Tell everyone what you're doing. Word of mouth is one of the best ways to gain clients, and it might not be that you'll get that client maybe from the person you told, but if you tell a person, let's say you meet them on the train or the ball field or in the supermarket, that you're starting this business, this is what you're doing, they might remember that information, and then let's say they have a conversation with someone who's moving or downsizing or needs organizing help, at least you'll be top of mind. So don't be afraid to start strutting your stuff a little bit and telling everyone what you're up to and what you're doing. And the other thing I would do is make sure that you also hone some skills before you put it out there. If you can work with friends or family a little bit before you actually say, I'm an organizer, I really think you need to get some education and some experience under your belt.
That's awesome. Geraldine, quickly on that, just for professional organizers, I know you work with a lot of them. Yeah. What's the best way to get the new customers? How to advertise? Is advertising good?
Advertising's okay, but advertising's usually expensive, and for a new organizer, that's just not an option. So I would say pimp your profiles, number one. And by that I mean your outgoing mail, that signature line should have your area code, a link to your website. Please don't add every social media link on your signature line. Do not add that every award you won, every networking group you're in. I think that's very outdated and it's not streamlined. You're projecting a bad message when you do that. So pimp your signature line. Add your, how about thinking about your outgoing voicemail message? It should say on there that, hi, I'm, Susie Q, I'm a professional organizer, and you can do that even if you don't have a website built. Let everybody who's calling you know that you're in the industry. And then the other thing is pick one or two social media platforms to build a nice, solid profile, and I always suggest for beginners, LinkedIn. And I know a lot of coaches out there say, don't tell people to do LinkedIn. I'll respectfully disagree. And the reason that I disagree with that is because even when you're a professional organizer specializing in residential, LinkedIn has a lot of mojo. So they're going to help you come up when people in your area are searching for a zip code in Cary or in, Westchester, New York, or wherever you're living. And if you're going to be in somebody's home, they're going to want to check out your profile and make sure you're connected to like-minded people and maybe mixing and mingling in groups, and you're legit. That's what LinkedIn will do for you, in my opinion.
I think that's a great idea. Now, Geraldine, again, we have a balanced audience here of all kinds of different people. Let's. Karen is asking a question about what about items that you are keeping just in case, trying to save them. What would you recommend to her?
Well, I'd tell Karen to probably think about how much is it to replace that item. Sometimes people hang on to really goofy little things that are $1.79 to replace. If you haven't used it in a long time and it can be replaced for, minimal amounts of money, I would suggest going ahead and letting it go. Also, if you're kind of wired and you're in a great neighborhood, or you're in a mom's network, or you're in a business setting and you can borrow things, that's another good way. You don't have to own, I don't even know what kind of tools are in people's garages, but crazy tools, a buzzsaw or whatever. Go borrow your neighbor's, or better yet, give it to him and let him saw it for you. So those are my first two things. I'm sure the other ladies have things to add.
Well, I'm gonna move on from that one too, because we're getting a lot of questions about photographs. Some of the pre-submitted questions were about photographs, and it sounds like if it's like my house, you've got boxes and boxes, and so we'll go to Leslie on this one. Organizing photographs. Any just good tips on how you get started with that?
I'm going to say that I think it's going to depend also on what you're comfortable with. Meaning, do you want to scan them? Do you want to? So for me, what I did, and again, you can do it so many different ways, and it's also going to depend on how much money you want to spend. So I took all our photographs actually, and I scanned them all onto my computer, and then I saved them onto a hard drive, so that this way they're safe. They're safekeeping. We have a hard drive, and they're in folders similar to photo albums that you might have that are tangible photo albums. But there are many companies now that you can actually send your photos out to that will do it for you, and then send them back to you, and then you can then once again group them into folders yourself if you want to spend the money and don't have the time. There's something out there for everyone, particularly when it comes to photos. And then my third option is there is a photo, or there's organizers that specialize just in photos. So if you want to bring somebody into your home and really work to craft this and make this wonderful and special and get everything done, there are wonderful organizers called APPO, A-P-P-O, is that specialize just in photo organizing.
Well, we actually kind of along that theme, we have a live participant from France, Natalie. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and a couple others in advance have submitted questions about other kinds of craft items. And Geraldine, have you worked with anybody who's kind of a crafter, and what kinds of things have you recommended to them? Storage containers. How do you get someone under? Because usually crafters like to gather a lot of stuff, don't they?
Yeah, oh yeah, and there's kind of like an addictive personality, and this is coming from my own clients, and I adore working with them, but they admit it, so they're not happy. Oftentimes people who knit with just 1 or 10 kind of yarns, they want 500 kind of yarns, so there's a lot of craving for novelty and variety. So with people who bead, I'm working with a beader, a jewelry maker right now, we've bought large test tubes to put beads in, and we try to dedicate, one table to her stuff, and that's it. Scrapbookers, again, there are so many wonderful systems, and there are organizers that just deal with scrapbookers. Knitting and crocheting, it's often good to kind of keep it cubbied, but at some point you have to say enough is enough and let things go. That's one of the main things. So I don't know, what else do you guys have to add to that?
Linda, what do you say about that to scrapbookers?
Well, I mean, the scrapbookers I know are really passionate about it, and they love to collect all their supplies and often get overwhelmed with them being everywhere. So the best thing is just to create an area and a boundary around the space and where you want to do your work and how you want to store it. Because otherwise, it's kind of like toys. It ends up creeping everywhere. So this way, when you're ready to scrapbook, you have everything that you need.
Well, Leslie, this is a softball question for you because you are the education expert, and Cheryl has asked particularly about tips for helping kids be organized at school. Now, remember, this is only a 1-hour program here, so if you could give me a couple really meaty tips, that would be great.
Can't we put on our pajamas and stay here till tomorrow with that question? Wait, they want to. But ask me that question again, because that's a really big question, so I want to drill it down a little.
Well, just tips for kids to keep organized at school and home. So maybe really probably a very high level kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm going to talk, let's talk a little bit about home first. We'll do a little bit of we can do a little of each. I think the best thing for kids when we organize them, in particular their rooms, is to involve them. You must bring them into the process with you, and as much as you can have everything that they own visual. Again, this is also going to be age dependent. I don't really know how old her children are, so obviously you're going to work very differently with an 8-year-old than you are with, let's say, a 16-year-old. But I think if we're going to talk, let's say, about younger children, I think as visual as you can keep their things, the best. I've gone so far as to take doors off closets, take dressers out of rooms, and put baskets so that children really can keep the things that they have organized and that they can see what they own. Because we know with children in particular, if a system is going to take them more than 3 steps to do, they're not going to do it. So the easier the system you put in place for them, whether it's for their room or even paper management for school, the more apt they're going to stay organized. And most importantly, they have to be part of the decision making.
Awesome. I think that's great advice. Geraldine, we're going to move to you right now, and I'm going to ask one of the pre-submitted questions because we want to do some of those too. And this is from someone who is named Kim, and she's struggling to figure out the best way to manage her desk, office, and files. And it sounds like she does many different jobs and helps multiple project managers. She's thought about color coding files but doesn't really know where to start. It's kind of hard to categorize them. So, someone who's responsible for not just their own organizing but organizing other people, what is your advice to her on that?
Well, this is going to be a complicated question to answer, so I'm going to just, unfortunately, Kim, I'm going to do real high level because it would be better in a one-on-one. However, you deal with something that real estate agents or salespeople deal with. So in other words, there's this big funnel, and as things go through cycles, you need to move those, it sounds like, move people from one section to another. So maybe it's a potential client, and then it becomes a client, and then the sale is done, and then you put them in a waiting period, and then you might have to recontact them or follow up or something like that. So I think color-coded files are wonderful depending on what kind of business you do. So I know with pharma reps I work with, we do color coding for different drugs or different territories. Another system that I'm really crazy about using with people like real estate agents or photographers who have lots and lots of different projects going all the time is to decide whether you want to use a 1/2, 1/3, or 1/5 cut file. And then you can move people through different stages. I don't even know if you can see my hands moving around, but I'm gesturing while I'm talking. So the most left-hand position of the file might be stage 1, the second is stage 2, so on and so forth. And when they complete the cycle, they move into that 5th tab. So you're adding folders all the time to these people. Or color coding using dots that are easily removed, little dots that would go next to their name. So maybe a potential client would get, a yellow dot. Somebody who has bought from you before would get a green dot. And then once the cycle is completed, you would change the color dot to red. Or you can actually start putting the dots going down the side. Like I say, this is a really good question, Kim, and unfortunately, it would take a lot longer to explain. But those are just a few of the things off the top of my head.
Well, and I think also, we do want to, again, we have questions coming in from all over. They're coming in like rapid fire here, which is great. I love it that we have so many people involved today. I do want to stay on office organizing here for a moment before we shift gears again. And Linda, how about you on just the idea of the general office organizing? How do you set up a file system? Color coding or any, how do you suggest someone do that, and just general business office kind of organizing tips?
Well, again, it's it's so customized to what people want. If someone responds to color, that's great, and you can color code all the files, the tabs, so that certain projects or departments are a particular color. Again, it depends on who's managing. Is this an individual office? Is it the entire office? So it's a little hard to be super specific. Geraldine, you did a great job on the high level. That was great.
Well, all right. Well, we're not going to, in just a couple sentences, we can't help other people get organized, but I think this idea of trying to get started, Leslie, you help people with calendars. We've had several questions about calendars, and especially if you have to keep multiple calendars, and we could say whether you're at an office and you have to watch the calendar of 3 or 4 people there, or if you have 2 or 3 kids and you've got to watch their calendars. What's the best way, Leslie, to manage multiple calendars?
I know we keep saying, and I have to also give Geraldine kudos for how she did that, because that question again was so big and she was able to drill it down. I'm going to try to dig deep here, but again, there's so many questions that need to be asked before you can just say what kind of calendar or how to handle it. Because you need to know, are you a paper person or are you an electronic person? And I'm not as big a techie as some of my esteemed colleagues sitting here today, but my biggest thing that I tell my clients is that you need to lead the technology and the technology cannot lead you. So you really need to figure out, are you a paper girl? Oh, I'm saying a girl because of me, or are you a techie girl? What are you actually trying to manage? Meaning, I can be specific and say, I know, like, for instance, Google Calendar is a wonderful tool, if that's what you like, where you can have separate calendars going on for different things. You can even have, like, a birthday calendar. You can have your work calendar. You can have your family calendar, and then they can all be integrated together. That would be a tip I would use.
Awesome.
But again, it's going to really depend a lot about what you're already doing and what works for you.
That's great. Geraldine, I'm going to go over to you. So this is a question from one of your fans from the Hoarders program on TV, but they're asking, this is kind of along the lines of your inbox, and I'm assuming what they're talking about is their email inbox, and they're asking specifically about how do you set up folders in your inbox. So I'm sure you have the general inbox and you want to move things out of there. How do you personally, this is behind the scenes, give us an idea.
So I'm going to give you my own personal scoop. That's what, right? We all want to know what organizers do. So I am really a person who in my own life tries to really honestly keep things very uncomplicated. So I name my electronic files pretty much how I name my paper files. And I'm a both person. I have a little of both. But for my inbox, I have a folder that's called admin. I have a folder that's called finance/tax, and my bookkeeping stuff goes in there. I have a marketing and PR folder. I have an industry/association folder, and anything related with NAPO or ICD or blogging groups I belong to, I sweep them in there. I have a folder for each person who helps me on my team. So I have an accountant, I have a lawyer, I have somebody that helps me with blogging, an editor, a photo person. So all of those people have individual folders. I have a coaching folder, so anybody I coach gets swept in there. That would be the equivalent of a client folder for somebody who's watching and has clients. Then I have one big folder called personal, and within that personal folder, I have stuff that is meaningful to me. So food, health, hobby, home, and photos. And this is where I kind of quarterly go in there. So people will send me, I have 2 boys in college. People send me pictures of when they were little, of when my boys were on sports. I sweep those in there, and then about 4 times a year I go in and kind of organize the photos that I've swept in there. Receipts and registrations is probably the thing that people kind of do a great big, oh, thank you for that one, when I'm working with them one-on-one. So when you buy something online, you need to hang on to that receipt, sweep it into your receipt folder for tax time. Registrations, conferences, maybe your car, something like that, sweep it into the registrations folder. I have a travel, a web, and a tech folder. Basically, that's all I have.
Well, that's all you have? I mean, you don't have any more than that? Come on.
Oh, yes, I looked in there.
Okay, you didn't even take a breath when you answered that question. That's really impressive. But Anyway,
Can I ask Geraldine a question?
yes, please do.
I'm sorry, Geraldine, was that what you meant? I know you're laughing, Leslie, but I'm listening to this. Geraldine, did you mean that was what your inbox was? Or is that your desktop?
Is that my what?
Inbox or desktop?
Is that your email inbox? Or was that...
That is how my inbox is organized. I have all of those folders in my inbox.
For your email?
Yeah.
Whoa! Okay.
Hey, behind the scenes. I think we're going to have to do a podcast on that one and maybe really get into that a little bit more. So
I'm only laughing because you started by saying that it's simple, and I don't know if I should admit this. Leslie, you're laughing too, but I have one inbox.
Oh, under my inbox, I have multiple folders. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think what they're saying is they have everything. You have, what, 2,000 messages in your inbox? Is that what you're saying?
No,
John,
Yes.
can I say something?
Absolutely.
I think this is really an important, I mean, we're sitting here and we're giggling, but I think what's great is that we're showing that Geraldine has it streamlined and organized and precise, and that is fantastic because it works for her. And Linda has one inbox because Linda is organized enough. And I'm, right? And I'm like I'm funny, I'm sitting here after Geraldine just went and said I have major fraud factor here because I know people say we're organizers. The only folders I keep on my computer, I keep one for every client. That's what I do because I want to keep all the correspondence that goes on between myself and clients. So every client has a folder, and I have a PR marketing, and then I have an academic planner one. So maybe I'm in between. Well, not even in between. Geraldine might be at Z, Linda might be at A. I'm probably at H.
I think I need some more folders.
To show everybody that it all is going to drill down to what your comfort level is. What can you handle? What's going to make your life simple? We never want an organizing system to overwhelm you. It's not supposed to be meant that way.
Okay, Linda, I'm gonna throw the next question to you, and this is from Hope. It says, how can you organize to make things simple at home? I don't have a large amount of money to do this with, and I know that's kind of a broad question, but if you're just starting with a new client, what are some of the SWAT team things you can do right away to just make things simpler at home?
Well, I think, and maybe this is the obvious one, but you've heard it before, that the less that we have, the simpler it is to manage. So if you were going to go with sort of the radical approach, I would start in one area and try to edit out and release the things that you don't want, that don't belong. And you could do that throughout the whole house first before you actually try to set up any systems. Because once you take away what doesn't belong, you'll begin to see the spaces more easily.
That's excellent. So we have a couple questions here that I'm going to answer because they're regarding some SMED products. One is Color Bar, which is we're an institutional labeling system, and also we've had a few questions in advance, and another one called Smart Strip. These are more technical user kinds of questions, and I would just say contact SMED customer service. We have people on hand to answer your questions. You can either call, go to the website smeed.com, go to the contact us, or customer service at smeed.com is the email if you have any question regarding some of the nuances of any of our products. We have people on staff during the daytime hours all day long. Okay, Geraldine, we're going to go over to you, and here is a question from Stormy, which says, well, she's actually answering Hope's question, so I'm gonna pass on that one because what we're finding out here in the discussion here is so many questions are going on that people on the chat are also answering other people's questions. So we're gonna move on to that. And Geraldine, okay, so let's see here. We've got you can answer this. Are any of these organizers, so this is for all of you, aware of the Paper Tiger program? And if you do, your thoughts about that. So Geraldine, have you heard of it, and what are your thoughts?
It's Barbara Hemphill originally started that. She's been in the industry about 30 years, and go Team North Carolina. She's located right here in Raleigh. So yes, I'm very aware of it, and I have a great deal of respect for everything Barbara creates. So yes, heard of it, familiar with it. It's been around a while.
Leslie or Linda, either of you familiar with that system?
I know of it. I'm sure it's been, since the last time I've looked at it, I'm sure it's been tweaked quite a bit, but it's a very specific way of working, and I think for some people it works extremely well, and for others it may not work with how their brain works. So it just depends. So if you're thinking about it, definitely take a look at it, because Barbara's great. She knows what she's doing.
Awesome. Well, Linda, I'm going to give you a question here from Deb, who's gotten herself into organizing system, and I hear this one a lot too. How do I keep up with it and not slip into my bad habits? Any advice on how do you, regardless of the system, what would you give advice to Deb?
Well, you know, all systems are as good as the maintenance piece. So once you find a system that you think works well, you need to work the system, otherwise it doesn't work. So, you know, on the simplest level, think about laundry, right? Most of us know how to do laundry. Your clothes are dirty, they go in the wash, they go in the dryer, you fold them, you put them away. But guess what happens? They get dirty again, and so the cycle starts again. And so with organizing, you want to set up a system that's as simple as you can make it, and then build into the schedule some maintenance time to keep that system in place, because it won't keep itself, unfortunately. You know, I've been asked by clients, do you have a magic wand? And I do have one, but it doesn't seem to work like that, so that's what I would suggest.
Leslie, any comments on that at all?
I feel that the best way to maintain a system, you have to build in the maintenance. But it's always best when you are creating that organizing system, if you can create it based on something you're already doing that works for you, than doing it from scratch. You are more apt, I find that with my clients, when they build upon something they're already doing and that's already working for them, then they're more apt to maintain the system than to try something brand new.
Well, Geraldine, I'm going to move on back to a professional organizer question. Again, we have several professional organizers themselves on. Maybe they're the ones helping to answer some of the questions in the chat. But this is from our friend Nacho in Mexico, and
hey, how you doing, Nacho?
Yes, Nacho.
Now he has a good problem, Geraldine, because he is in an area where there's not a lot of professional organizers, but he's asking, you know, he's relatively new in the business, you know, is it a good or a bad idea to, you know, take people in and work with them kind of just as a helper, first of all, to show them what you can do, kind of prove yourself, or what would you suggest for any new organizer? Is it good to kind of demo your talents with people?
Yeah, I wish Nacho lived near me, because I have him come organize my house. I actually invite local organizers into my own home to give them a little test run. A lot of people want to shadow. Don't be surprised if an experienced organizer says, I don't want you along. And the reason they would say that is because you're a liability to them. We've spent lots of money, time, energy, growing our business and making our business just so. So to bring somebody new along who could sort of unravel it or hurt our reputation or ruin the client's house or whatever could go wrong. I'm not saying that goes on very often, but it could. And the other reason, in addition to you might unravel something, is you're most likely, as a brand new organizer, not insured. An experienced organizer doesn't want you to tag along. But oftentimes, about 4 times a year, I let people come in and work around my own house. I'll let them go to town on my pantry, my garage, my filing system, to watch them in action. I give them points, and then I make them do an assessment with me. If things work out and they want to continue their studies, sometimes I let people come along. So there's a good and a bad to that, Nacho. You have to think through it and be willing to take some risks. But I would not bring a brand new, inexperienced organizer on a job, even as an assistant, in a client's home. And if you do decide to do that later, after you've experienced them in your own home, make sure that you have the client's permission. Do not bring a stranger and have them sign off on that.
Linda, any thoughts on that about bringing someone along?
It's interesting. Is that I might have misunderstood his question. I thought he was saying, should he go in?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, actually, I think you're right. I think it's like since he's a newer organizer, take people on and kind of demo his services?
I thought he meant should he go in and give his services away for free so that others would know what he's doing. Is that what he meant, or he didn't?
I'm not sure. Maybe he can put that in the chat box. But let's say that's what it is. If you're new, is it a good idea to give away your services to get some experience?
I think that if you've never organized with a client, then it's a great idea to see what it's like to work with people. So experimenting on family and friends is a great way of doing it. And I recently heard something that an organizer had done when she first started out, which I thought was a fantastic idea. What she did was she enlisted the help of a bunch of family and friends that she could go in and organize with. But she insisted on invoicing them so she could practice what it felt like even to charge for her services. But she'd send the invoices out with a 0 at the bottom. So she'd invoice it and then like mark it paid, so that she got the comfort of knowing that she was there professionally, but she was actually doing it, you know, at no charge, and it helped her then when she went to work with clients. So I think it's great. If you can't get training ground with organizers, then yes, that's what family and friends are for.
Awesome. I think that's great advice too. Leslie, we're going to go to you now and ask a question about someone who's looking for a professional organizer, and maybe this is a NAPO kind of question, to work with a client who has multiple physical disabilities. First of all, maybe are there any designations that they should look for, or any directories or organizations? What would you say on that?
Well, I'm going to say a bunch of things, actually. I think that's a wonderful question. And when I speak to a client that might have either certain types of disabilities, whether it's physical, visual, mental, I always tell them to do their due diligence. So I think it's wonderful for you to to ask the question if they are a NAPO member. I think that's wonderful because it's a wonderful baseline education. But I would also see if you could seek out someone as well who might be a member of the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, because they also teach classes directly for certain types of disabilities. And I would even ask what, you know, if I was the client, I would be asking for actual, can you tell me a little bit about a client you might have worked with? I get phone calls, for an example, all the time from someone who says that they might have hoarding tendencies and they want to hire a professional organizer. And they want to do their due diligence, and I always say, well, are you asking when you're calling if they actually have hoarding experience? There are those, you know, and a lot of times I get that silence. I hear crickets, and they said, oh, I never thought to ask that question. So if you are the client asking that organizer on the phone, ask them what they've done. Ask them things that they've done with those types of clients. Where have they gotten their experience from? What organizations do they belong to? What kind of certifications do they have that enables them to come into my house and provide me with those, you know, with those systems that I need?
Linda, do you have any comments on that, on how someone would locate and find a professional organizer, any designations or ways that, I know NAPO has a national database. If you go on to napo.net, would there be some search criteria that they would maybe put in to find someone like that?
There is, on napo.net, there's definitely search criteria. I don't recall if they have something as specific as physical disabilities, but certainly but there's certainly with, I think ADHD is one of the criteria. Say it again, seniors. Yep, definitely with ICD, which is the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, that's .org. Again, you can search by criteria, and there are certificates of study in different categories, like physical disabilities, aging, learning styles. It's very specific education. And again, I think Leslie's advice was terrific. If you're interviewing and trying to find the right organizer, you're looking both for their background, what education, training, credentials they have, what experience they have. You're also looking for the right fit, because it is a very personal business. You know, like here we are, the three of us, we're hanging out. We actually all know each other really well, and we know that to work successfully with a client is not just about whatever education and skills we have. It's about whether there's a fit between the styles, working styles. So that's something that's a little harder to tell when you're searching online, but it's a good starting point. Good starting point.
Awesome. Hey, well, we've got some more professional organizer questions, and this comes from someone, maybe just a brand new question because I've been hearing the talk about becoming a professional organizer. Geraldine, this one's just asking, how do I become a professional organizer? What are the first few steps?
You would just say, I'm now a professional organizer. At this exact moment, there is not a licensing, there's not a certification, there is no hoops of fire that you have to jump through before you start calling yourself an organizer. That doesn't mean that that will stay like that forever, and it doesn't mean that there aren't certifications and there aren't hoops of fire to jump through, because there are. So Linda mentioned a few minutes ago the ICD, which is the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, has a certification program, and there, once you're certified, you will become a CPO-CD, Certified Professional Organizer in Chronic Disorganization. NAPO also has their hoops of fire to jump through, and when you earn your credentialing with NAPO, your credentialing will be CPO, meaning Certified Professional Organizer. And NAPO's is sort of a knowledge-based, experienced type of exam, and the ICD course, again, I'm way boiling this down like in 30 seconds. It's the Reader's Digest version. You should explore both websites and gather your own. But the ICD program is longer. You'll work one-on-one with a coach. You will do a lot of reading, some writing assignments, but monthly meetings with a coach over the phone. And there are, again, you sit before a peer and have a review. So both credentials, and you'll see some organizers have both, but to answer your question, if you want to call yourself a professional organizer, it is not illegal, immoral, bad ethics, whatever. You may start calling yourself a professional organizer.
Well, and if I could add something to that.
Yeah, I wanted to add something too. Linda.
Okay. You want to go first, Leslie?
No, I want you to go.
Okay. Well, something really interesting, it's a cultural thing. So in the U.S., to hang up your shingle before you have the education or training is very common. ICD has been doing a lot of work with JALO, which is the Japanese Association of Life Organizers, and ICD has been providing some basic education and training for that association. And what's really fascinating in Japan, at least for this group, is probably 80% of their members want the education first and will not actually work with clients until they have that education. It's completely different than the U.S. So I know here there are people probably, I mean, I don't know what the demographic is, but I'm assuming there are people listening from all over the world here today. And so the idea of hanging up the shingle before you have the education is very much a U.S. thing to do, but I'm a huge proponent in getting that education. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, Leslie, you had something you wanted to add to that.
I wanted to add that. I want to just, I loved what both Linda and Geraldine said, but not every organizer needs to take the exam, either through the ICD or NAPO, to be a professional organizer. You can still take classes through NAPO and ICD at your own will, take whatever you want to take that's going to benefit the kind of organizer you want to be. You don't necessarily have to do it to the point of those distinctions. So those distinctions take months. Somebody might not be able to afford them. They might not want to, at the time they're starting out, take all of those steps if they're not quite sure this is really what they want to do. I think they need to get educated. I'm a big education girl. I think they need to read books. There are some fantastic books on the market that really talk about what every professional organizer needs to know before they get started. And if I was telling someone who wanted to become a professional organizer how to spend their dollars, I would actually say invest in an hour or two coaching session with an established organizer. Someone like Geraldine, Linda, I'm going to even put myself last on that one, but I think getting that information, paying for that coaching, and getting the ins and outs and getting the step-by-step will save, to me it's worth the money because it will save you time trying to figure out the maze of, navigating it and getting information from pros. I really believe that.
Geraldine, to kind of dovetail with that, someone asked a question about social media, and this is in context of being a professional organizer and maybe time management. Is social? I mean, all three of you guys are really active on social media, but do you think social media is a good thing for a professional organizer, especially a new one, to get involved in?
Well, here's the boiled down answer. If you have a lot of money and can pay a PR rep or an agent to do things for you and get your name out there, go for it. But oftentimes I work with people who are coaching and they have tried that approach. Some of them are paying upwards of $2,000 per month. A coach is typically, $100 to $200 an hour. That's a lot less expensive. So I think social media is free for the most part. It's an investment of time, but you don't have to spread yourself over Instagram and Pinterest and Twitter. You don't have to do it all. Pick one or two things that feel authentic and genuine to your brand and focus on those. And again, if you really don't know where to start, and my colleagues might have a different suggestion, but I really think start on LinkedIn because it is the businessy type of social media platform, and I think there's a certain level of respectability that's on LinkedIn. Again, feel free to disagree with me, but that's kind of my opinion.
Any of you others, social media, you're all active. I mean, doesn't it take a lot of your time?
Linda, do you want to go first?
Uh-oh.
Whoever talks first, their camera turns on, so that's how it works.
He's caught. I think it takes as much time as you will allow it. It's like the bucket. It's like the room. How big? How big's the room? How much are you going to fill it? So I know for myself, I have to absolutely put parameters around it. I'm a huge. I love using social media, and I'll tell you why. I think if you're interested in getting out there in the world in a bigger way than just where you were, it's a great way to do it. And I've met the most incredible people from all over the world that I just wouldn't have met otherwise. Opportunities come from that you couldn't imagine. And so I see a benefit. However, a lot of people struggle with it. So I like Geraldine's advice of figure out which platform makes sense for you. It might be LinkedIn, it might be Twitter, it might be Pinterest. You have to see where are you getting the activity, what are you really trying to do with it. You don't want to just be putting out content, you want to truly be sharing other people's and try to establish some kind of communication and community if you can. And I think the other thing is it's not instant, it takes time. So thinking through a strategy, the idea of having a coach or someone that understands what social media is about, so that you can make a plan so that you're not just all over the place, it probably is a good idea.
All right, Leslie, I'm going to move on to you now about, this is another inside question here for organizing at home. Linda asked this question about, how do you organize your pantry?
I don't.
It's like the inbox. No.
I don't.
I just to our house.
I really don't. I'm sorry. And you wanted us to be honest.
Absolutely.
My pantry is not organized. Here's all right, wait. I'm going to take that back. There's one thing I do that that is an organizing strategy, but it's not perfect. We're all busy people. I'm a busy girl. A lot of people are in that pantry day in and day out. So trying to make it organized always doesn't work. But my advice always is to organize, and it's a little quirky, is to organize by use and not by fit. Because we're all used to, coming home from the supermarket or wherever we buy our groceries and open up the pantry and see that little window of opportunity and maybe shove a can here and a box of rice there, or, ooh, the cereal can go there. And I think that's what really gets to us, because we don't know what we own, and then we end up rebuying and repurchasing, and we find God knows what's living in the back of the pantry door, the pantry shelf. So if you can think to organize by use and like grouping, like a library, things together that go together, whether it's all your canned goods or all your baking goods or all your whatever store it is, you're more apt to know what you own and then buy less and keep things a little more organized.
All right, Linda, how about you? How about your pantry? Confession time.
Okay, confession time is, okay, I have a very small pantry. So There's not a lot in it, and it's absolutely grouped like with like, spices with spices, cans with cans, flour with sugar. I have like a remote pantry that's not in the kitchen, and then I have sort of the kitchen pantry, which is more a series of drawers, and I have them grouped by like types of things, like dried fruit, and then my favorite snacks, which I probably can't say the name of what that drawer is on the internet, but anyway, it's just a fun drawer with fun things in it that I like to eat that I shouldn't eat, and and basically I don't keep a lot of extra. And I think, someone earlier had asked, how do you organize? How do you start organizing your home? And I think certainly with the pantry and other things, I have enough of what I need and a little bit extra, but I don't have tons of extra. I like to have, enough toilet paper, enough paper towels, enough like cans of beans just in case, and bags of pretzels, but I don't need hundreds of them. Just enough so that I don't have to be constantly running out to the store. I don't know if that's helpful, but
it is. It's great. Geraldine, we're not even going to ask you about your pantry because that'll be for another show. But we are going to talk about. You did a recent podcast with us about wardrobe and organizing, and a listener asked a question about how to organize a closet. Should you use a closet company? What's the best way to select a closet company? How about some tips on organizing your closet?
Okay. So if you're going to use a closet company, I think you should do a little bit of homework and study. It'll pay off. So have some idea of what what kind of budget you have, and then ask questions about are the shelves melamine or are they thermal? Do you want a round hanging rod or do you want an oval rod? Oval rods tend to be a little stronger. Is the rod going to be made of metal or wood? So those are a couple things to think about. Is the board that they're using for the shelving particle board or furniture grade? Because not all closet products are created equal. So it doesn't mean one is good and one is bad. Again, it's a budget question. So those are some of the things I think about with my clients. All the little doodads in a closet are where closet companies make money, which means that's where you're spending money. So do you want drawers with full extension that when you push in, they softly go back and kind of do a little bump in, or do you want the drawers that you just push in yourself? Do you want valet rods or jewelry trays or belt racks or glass doors or, fancy handles? Those are some of the things that I would ask when exploring, closet companies, or even an organizer could probably answer some of those questions for you.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna move on now. Leslie, let's get back to you on this one about this question was organizing. If you're overwhelmed and you're trying to prioritize, how do you prioritize? If you are overwhelmed. So I hope that makes sense.
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna answer it the way I heard it. So I hope it will be helpful. What I hope they're asking is that they have a lot going on, they have a lot to do, they're overwhelmed by everything. How do they prioritize what they need to do? And then my question also would be, then take it one step further, and how do you make sure it gets done? So there's a lot to answer there, but I'm a big believer in always having your appointments and your to-do list have to be one, because if they're not married, then it's very difficult to actually get anything done. It's all well and good to create a to-do list, but if you're then not scheduling those tasks into your day and actually making time to get them done. And the most important thing also is what usually gets people overwhelmed is not what I call their one-offs. Like a one-off might be going to the dry cleaners or picking up a prescription at the drugstore. That's a one and done, but a project. So if they're deciding that they want to do, let's say, redo their kitchen, having that on a to-do list, very difficult to do that as a one-off. You need to break that down into manageable tasks. So you might have a task like call my 3 friends to get 3 recommendations for a contractor, then make the calls to the contractors, and so on down the list. But most importantly is marrying your to-dos with your schedule to make sure that you actually make time to get those priorities done.
That's great. That's a great answer. Linda, there was a follow-up to you earlier about the inbox, and this wasn't specific about whether it's the electronic or the your actual physical one, but how do you manage your inbox? Someone wants to know that.
Well, okay. All right, I will tell you. So the emails come in, and every time I sit down, there's like 50 or 100 new emails. So I get a lot of emails going on. What I do is simply I go through first anything that's junk, delete, delete, delete. Then anything that needs an action, I will, depending on what the action is, I will either take care of it right away if it's simple, or it goes on a list as a reminder. Then I come back to it, and eventually that stuff the emails get archived. But the idea is I try to get them out of my inbox as quickly as possible. I'm still on that. I'm thinking about what Geraldine said about these various folders, and it's a thought. But I guess for me, I'm thinking the more folders I have, the more places I have to look for things, and so I tend to keep the active emails in the inbox in one inbox so that I know I need to take an action on it. It's my reminder. I may start to change that, but it's worked so far. I'm not going to tell you how many emails I have in my inbox, though.
We won't get into that detail.
Okay,
this question is for all of you. I'll give you each a chance to answer this one. And Geraldine, we can start with you about your favorite tools that you use with your clients, organizing tools. Or, I suppose that could be a tip too, but are there things that you like to use when you're working with clients?
Well, with all due respect, that's such a broad question that I'm going to funnel it way down to a fine point here. And let's just pick that the client needs help organizing cords and cables. So some of the tools I would use would be I'd open up the inside of a cabinet door and use the self-adhesive hooks so you can hang your headphones or hang whatever. I have some stuff right here. I'm getting ready to go on a trip. So these little bags that I don't know if you can see this. It's kind of a gauzy bag. It's a drawstring. These are my own technique I use for myself. So I put the cords that fit in here. I have like lots of these from people who give me gifts, or when you go shopping, people put jewelry. That's another cord management tool. I like rubber bands like this that have a hook around them. So you hook your cables, and then this works really well for some people, especially with gobs and gobs of like spaghetti cords under there. The little Velcro things that you unravel and tie up. I'm organizing somebody's cables. That's why pouches, carrying cases that makeup comes in, like Estee Lauder or Clinique or whoever gives a gift. Use those things to organize your cables and cords when you travel. And then finally, just something really simple that I use in my own house again is like a binder clip. So this is a mouse that with the plug-in, we have a lot of mouses around our house. But anyway, just something simple like that to label it so you know what it is. So again, how do I organize some of my favorite tools? I'm going to say organizing cords and cables. It depends what the client's need is or what's going to work. These are some of the things that I know work for my clients and me.
How about you, Leslie? Any favorite tools that you like to use?
Yes, I'm pretty pedestrian when it comes to organizing products because I feel that organizing doesn't have to be expensive. So I always say think triple B, bins, boxes, and baskets. A lot of times we can even find them already living in the house. Anything that we can do to corral any kind of item, whether it's a bin, a basket, I love. I love labels, whether they're stick-on labels. I know there used to be a company called Knack-It. I know they've changed their name recently, or even a label maker. But my number one favorite is clear shoe bags. I'm all about using airspace because I feel that that's where your eye goes to. So you can use clear shoe bags for everything from the pantry to cords and cables, makeup, jewelry, diabetes supplies, you name it, corralling kids stuff. And then for students, I have to just do this. My favorite thing actually is a duo binder, and I love Smeed's vertical folders. Love them for backpacks and knapsacks.
Well, that was great. Appreciate
Well,
that.
I love them.
Linda, how about you? Any favorite tools that you like to use?
Okay, and are these the tools now? Again, it must be me. These are the tools. These, I know, I have to be difficult, right? Are these the tools that we use, the products we use for our clients, or the tools that we like to use that we carry in our toolkit?
Well, you know, it wasn't specific, but I think it's things that your clients, that you would recommend for your clients to use.
Okay. Well, again, like they said, it depends what the project is, but I would say one of the products that I use consistently over and over again, the Container Store sells their own brand of boxes with lids in all kinds of sizes, from really tiny, like an accessory size box, here you can't see my hands, but small, to the size of, let's say, a pair of boots, to under the bed storage, shoebox size. And they're really terrific because you can see through them, you can label them, you can use them in all kinds of situations, from toys to clothes to closets to offices, and they're consistent in how they're made, and they're easily available. So if I spec them for a particular job, I know that in a year, 2 years from now, they're going to have the exact same product again, and that I like that. So.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're almost out of time. I want to give each of you just like about 15 seconds to give out your website name. It is on your little graphic there, and just quickly what kinds of services you offer. We'll start back with you, Linda. How can people get a hold of you? They want to work with you.
Sure. You can go to my website, www.ohsoorganized.com. You can connect with me all kinds of social media ways. I have a blog. I have a book. Free newsletter, come sign up, and I'd love to work with you. I work with clients throughout the U.S., hands-on, mostly in the New York area, although I've gone as far as Las Vegas, and I also do phone work. So I'd love to meet you and connect with you, and thanks for having me here, John.
Awesome. Leslie, how do people get a hold of you, and what kind of things can you help people with?
So you can absolutely find us at orderOOchaos.com. Name of the company is Order Out of Chaos, but it's orderOOchaos.com, and we offer all kinds of services similar to Linda. We're hands-on here in the tri-state, but we work virtually all over the country. We particularly work also with students and tend to do a lot of that work by virtual services as well.
All right, Geraldine, your turn. Close us out with how people can get a hold of you and what kinds of services you offer.
Okay, metropolitanorganizing.com. I offer 3 services. I have a team of professional organizers that will go out in the Raleigh-Durham area and organize people's homes and home offices. I offer coaching over the phone for clients all over the world that are interested in becoming professional organizers or want to learn to market their current organizing business. And my third line is I sell forms created especially for people who are becoming organizers or in the organizing industry that want to learn to do client intake, assessment, photo waivers, client agreements, letter of agreements, things like that. So metropolitanorganizing.com.
Awesome. Well, guys, we are out of time now, and it's been a fast-packed hour. People want to see the replay. This will be posted at smead.com/hangouts. And just want to thank you for participating, and we will do this again. It was a great time.
Oh, it was so much fun.
This was great.
So much fun. Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
All right. See everyone later. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.